Welcome to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast, a free resource for moms raising young autistic children. I am your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. I created Thriving Moms of Autistics after years of experience working with families and having my own autistic child. I coach moms of young autistics one-on-one to tap into their strengths, create a supportive community, set firm boundaries, and raise their autistic child with confidence. Subscribe to the podcast and check out the earlier episodes so you don't miss a thing. Now, let's get to it. Hi, moms. I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day. Raising any child can be stressful. It is one thing to wonder if your child is making friends, being bullied, or how you can help them get to all their therapy appointments. Throw in the constant safety concerns in IEP meetings, and you've ended up in fight or flight mode. You know exactly what I mean. In this episode, I talk about the levels of stress moms of autistics experience, the impact it has on our minds and bodies, and how to combat stressors and start thriving. And perhaps you have been thriving, but an event has thrown you for a loop, and that's okay, because you can reset and get back to thriving. Find the full transcript for this episode at thrivingmomsofautistics.com/28. For more episodes like this one, go to the website thrivingmomsofautistics.com and look under self-care and boundaries for a list of episodes related to this topic. Please share the podcast with other moms and help them grow in their autism journey. You can also do this by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you. In episode 3, I talked about why raising an autistic is so stressful. And the list is pretty long. As moms of autistics, we share many of those concerns and probably have some extras. In the short term, we experience some very uncomfortable symptoms, such as panic, nightmares, rapid heartbeat, rising blood pressure, headaches, muscle aches, and even digestive issues. Over time, we can develop hypertension, stroke, or even a heart attack. Stress is hard on our bodies and can be deadly. It's hard on our minds as well. We can develop cognitive issues, become foggy, forgetful, and some individuals experience panic attacks, anxiety, or depression. In episode 6, I offer a mom hack to deal with stress. So check that out if you haven't already. That's episode 6. Ultimately, awareness is key. So learn to listen to your body and be aware of the greatest stressors so you can act. Now, what happens if you do not counteract stress as a mom of an autistic? As mentioned, stress it could just have serious consequences for your mind and your body. It's easy to get caught up in being busy and think, oh, that won't happen to me, until it does. All moms of autistics want to be there for their child for as long as they possibly can. And you have some control over that. Being proactive with inevitable stressors is a great start. Last week, the big takeaway from episode 27 was that when you engage in self-care, you are giving back to your child and modeling healthy behavior. And as a result, you are better prepared to give them what they need. And this is your why. Now, I have a confession to make. I am not perfect. I don't have all the answers all the time. And I get stressed out too. It's my imperfection and experience that allows me to support you with this podcast. I have been there and I get it. And I need to reset once in a while too. Recently, our local special needs community was turned upside down. We're all still trying to wrap our minds around it, and just trying to deal with it. Our children are supposed to be safe when they go to school, when they go anywhere. That's our expectation, that they're going to be safe. It is traumatic when an educator allegedly does the unthinkable to our children and allegedly abuses them in front of a class, creating a ripple effect on the children involved. I'm angry, and I'm sad, and I'm disgusted because I know other special education teachers in this area. They are fabulous. They're amazing. They're struggling too. They love our children like their own and are struggling to understand how this can happen. My son attends ABA full-time until he's ready to go to the classroom and be successful. So he was not directly involved with this classroom and did not know the alleged perpetrators. However, he has friends that go to that school that are like him. I have cried many tears with my friends over the last few weeks. I have had a sense of doom at times. That feeling when something is out of your control. I have had terrible nightmares that I can't keep my son safe for whatever reason. I know that this can happen anywhere at any time. And as moms, we do our very best to keep our children safe. My son has been in ABA for years, and I'm very involved and get to know his therapist and the staff there. I have no doubt that the leadership would intervene immediately if they had concerns. They all know him well, and he trusts them. We are blessed that he can use his voice. But the thought of children like my son, the thought of them being hurt heavily weighs on my heart. They can't speak. We must be their voice, and that is stressful. My son was nonverbal until age 5. I remember that added layer of stress well, and so thankful that his ABA worked so hard not only to help him speak, but also to teach him self-advocacy. That was really important to them and to me. Now, my mother passed away 15 years ago. She has been in my dreams last week for 3 nights in a row, which is very unusual. So why am I telling you this? Well, this is a red flag for me. I am aware that my stress manifests itself through my dreams. Remember how I mentioned awareness? This is what I'm referring to. Be mindful of the flags. I am paying close attention to this and working on ways to deal with stress that have been effective for me in the past. I'm implementing more exercise and adding vitamin C to support my immune system because it tends to take a hit. I am also getting creative with new ways to cope with stressors so that my stress doesn't have long-term effects on my body and my mind and then rubs off on my son. I have been on the lookout for body and mind alerts that stress might be increasing. Now, our children can spot stress and anxiety a mile away, which is another reason to keep it in check. So I'm going to give you 3 tips for moms of autistics to take charge of stress, okay? 1 is to reflect. So let's just take a few minutes to reflect on common stressors in our life. Okay, so make a list. This is going to help you become more aware in the future as stressors start to creep up. Okay, so do a little inventory. Number 2, be mindful. When you are aware of stressors that occur in your life, you are more mindful of the choices that need to be made in response. So take a moment to consider your list of stressors and what has worked well for you in the past to combat those stressors. Now also be mindful of what doesn't work well and be prepared to choose wisely. And last, act. Implement past proven ways to deal with stressors and consider things that you might add to the mix to see if it helps. So get creative. Talk to someone who gets it. They might have some ideas that you haven't even thought about. Now, I want to leave you with this. Bad things can happen anywhere, at any time. We hear things in the news all too often, and it doesn't have to directly happen to us. It still affects us. It has an impact. This is why a supportive community and self-care are so important. And all the 4 areas that I often talk about, my goal is to give you the tools needed to thrive. Thriving in your autism journey doesn't mean that things are not falling apart around you. It means that you use the tools you have to overcome and persevere. I want to dedicate this episode to all of you. Every one of you is near to my heart. Thanks for listening to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast. Be sure to leave a review and tell other moms of Autistics about the podcast. Let's support each other. Find the full transcript for this episode at thrivingmomsofautistics.com. And be assured, you are not alone in your journey.